problem was not understanding the issue of the Nile. They would talk about the Nile like the professor, Boutros Ghali. They would talk about the Nile, but it's not talking, it is doing. Yeah. Because the big problem, because the Egyptians are rightly worried about the Nile, which is all right. Now, if you are worried about something, if you are worried about your baby, then you must know the threats to the baby. What are these threats? I shouldn't leave the baby here because the snake may come and bite him, or the sun will...
So you believe that the real threats of the Nile are misperceived by Egypt?
Oh yes, oh yes.
So from your point of view, what are the real threats?
The problem number one is the lack of electricity in the tropics. Here where you are.
Yeah.
Now, when you don't have electricity here, and with the increasing population, there is more cutting of trees for firewood. Now, the cutting of trees is very bad for the environment here, and therefore for the rain formation. So therefore, anybody who is interested in the Nile must work for the rapid electrification of all the tropical countries, so that the cutting of trees stops. Here in Uganda, we are now destroying 40 billion cubic meters of wood per annum. This is too much. Because people don't have electricity, they cut the trees to use for cooking. Now, the second danger is lack of industrialization. Which means if the countries are not industrialized, the population remains in agriculture. Now, this agriculture is primitive agriculture. It's not modern farming. So these fellahin, peasants, they now encroach on the swamps, on the wetlands.
Yeah, almost the same word.
Granary is English. Granary, like where you keep wheat.
Yeah, it's gorn.
So that's where water is kept. Like when you are coming here, I wish somebody could show you some of those swamps. I will give you somebody when you are going back, so that you stop on one of them.
Great.
And you see. So those swamps are being encroached on by the peasants because they are looking for to grow something near the water and all that. Now, if you take Uganda, 40% of our rain comes from those wetlands, from those swamps, like the one they are going to show you today. So if those swamps are dried up, that means we shall get 40% less rain than we are getting now. The other 60% of the rain comes from the ocean, from the Pacific. But I'm also not sure if we lose the 40, whether we shall continue getting the 60. Whether the 60 may also not, because when the two combine, the 40 combines with the 60, then you get the rain. So I'm not sure that if we lose the 40, we shall even get the 50. We may get less. So therefore, to preserve the Nile, two things must happen. stop electrify the tropics so that people stop cutting trees. Secondly, industrialization, so that people shift from agriculture to industry, to factories. You leave less people in agriculture. Like Europe, if you go to USA, how many people are in agriculture? Only 2%. In the United States. In UK, the same, 2%. Here, something like 70% are still in agriculture. Even in Egypt, people need to shift from agriculture to industry. That's what we used to tell Mubarak. If more people are in industry, if Egypt is a Japan manufacturing, you will have less people in agriculture, and you will now have the products of the brain rather than the products of the plow, the cars, the machines, Japan is doing. So that's what we need here. Then the Nile will be protected.
Mr. President, I totally understand, but people in Egypt are really concerned, and they can't understand yet what you are saying. It's very new for them. So we have...
That's a big mistake.
Yes,
because...
Yes, I admit.
The Nile has been here for a million years.
Yeah.
Why don't they come and we discuss? We are here.
But I will tell you what the Egyptians are thinking of.
We have been struggling alone. We have been struggling alone to build electricity, so that we have electricity, but also people stop cutting trees. We have also been struggling to build industries, so that people shift from agriculture to industry and services. Services, hotels, tourism. There's more money there than just agriculture. Agriculture, you can have less people, but with more agricultural production. That's what is happening in America. How many people are in agriculture in America? Very few, 2%. But the production, very big. Production, agricultural production,
yeah,
very big of the United States. Industrial production, very big.
Egyptians think like this. They need water to live, and this is very true. And they are saying, we need water. The countries of the upstream are having rains. Why they are insisting to deprive Egypt from, it's not enough at all, share of the Nile waters. And now you are telling us that the lack of electricity and industrialization in your country are affecting our Nile water.
Will affect.
That's what we need really to explain to the Egyptian people and to think together how we can face together these threats and solve this problem without hurting
anybody.
Exactly.
That's exactly the issue.
Yeah.
Because I have the figures here. No, so that's one side. One side. But besides, Egypt should know that they are in Africa. The Egyptian civilization is an African civilization. It is based on African resources. The Nile. The Nile is the mother of Egypt. So, why do you spend so much time in the Middle East, in Europe, America? Could spend a little bit more time where your life is. If you say life is, Nile is life for Egypt, which is true, then why do you spend so little time? And you spend a lot of time on things which don't give you life. You should ask your leaders. I used to tell Mubarak, why don't you come and visit the source of the Nile and we discuss? Just comes for 1 hour, goes away. The other day Mus came for 2 hours and went away. When do we discuss seriously?
And they didn't go to the source of the
nobody,
Nile.
not even the pharaohs. Neither the pharaohs nor the president of Egypt.
I did, and I'm very proud.
Very good. God will bless you since you visited the source of the Nile. So, now the other issue, if the Egyptians knew that they are part of Africa, you will find that there are rivers in Africa which have got much more water than the Nile.
Like,
The Congo. This Nile you are talking about, the Egyptians, with their disagreement they had with the British, these agreements of theirs with the British, 1928, 19, I don't know 40 what, they were talking of 85 billion cubic meters of water per annum. And then they gave Egypt 55 billion, Sudan 18 billion, our area nothing.
but you don't need water.
We shall come to that.
Okay.
We shall come to that. Fortunately, those figures are also wrong. Because the water of the Nile is more than that. Sometimes it is like here, average annual volume billion, 89 billion here. Here.
The Nile?
Yes. It's more than the 85 they keep talking about. It is more water than that. Sometimes it goes up to 160 billion.
But why you are not aware of that?
Because you have no time. You are busy with Europe, with America, with the Arabs. That's where you are. The figure, the 85 billion, were before 1961. After 1961, there were huge rains where Lake Victoria went up by 3 meters. So the average is 89 billion, not 85 billion as they keep saying. And sometimes it goes up to 161 billion. So that's one point. But the Congo has got much more water than the Nile. It has got 1,319 billion. This little Nile of ours has got only 100 billion, 160 billion, 85 billion. But the Congo has got 1,319 billion. So, what the Africans should be doing, not only the Egyptians, is to talk to look at Africa as Africa. And then work together, approach the government of the Congo. Because now this water is going in the ocean. Mm-hmm. Just the ocean.
Wasted.
Yes. Like this huge water of the Congo is just going in the ocean. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what if we talked to the government of Congo and all of us Africans and say, now, how do we help each other to develop electricity, develop industries, but also develop agriculture, but also solve the problem of water. Yes. So, that's what should be done. But you can't do it when you are standing there, like when you stand, you make statements. We shall go to war with Ethiopia. If you go to war, of course people will fight you. And they will forget about your problems. Because you are now an enemy, you are not a friend. All these other rivers, the Niger in West Africa, 302 billion cubic meters of water. Much more than this Nile, which we keep talking about. The Zambezi, these are a bit far. The Zambezi is a bit far. But the Niger is not so far. It is that one which goes through Mali, through Nigeria. The Congo is not so far. It is near here. And there are other river systems, even in Ethiopia. There are other river systems. Not the Nile system, but others. The Omo, what? So therefore, the Egyptians need to remind themselves that they are part of Africa and that their livelihood, indeed their existence, is African-based, and spend more time on these issues, and then we'll look for solutions.
If this is the solution, if we have to sit together and to think together about the solution, and you are the wise man here, you are the great African leader now, why don't you ask for...
We are ready. We are ready. First of all, there was one meeting where Mubarak could not come. There was one meeting where I don't remember what it was, but Mubarak couldn't come because I think the problems of your problems had started. Mm-hmm. He couldn't come. Now, 7 countries out of the 9 of the Nile, we are about to sign the agreement. These Egyptians here, they came and confused us. They came and said, no, don't sign.
You mean the public diplomacy?
Yes. They said, don't sign because Egypt is still in problems. Wait, once we solve our problems, we shall come. So we are waiting for you. Now, instead of coming to now that if your problems are settled, instead of coming now you talk of war. So we are ready. We are ready. I don't know who the chairman of the Nile Valley countries now, but we can talk to them and call this meeting.
Why Uganda would be the parent of this meeting, not the Nile Valley organization or the...
No. I'm saying that I would talk to the one who is the chairperson of the Nile organization and advise him to call the meeting.
Why you don't call for the meeting?
Well, I don't know who the chairman now because I need to follow the protocol. But it doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter who is the chairman. I can talk to him.
Despite all this, you believe that this agreement is fair for all nations of the Nile Basin or not?
It's bound to be fair. There's no way it can be unfair. Why? First of all, the water for electricity is not a problem. Because the water for electricity goes through the machines, generates electricity, and goes back in the river. So there is no problem.
But that's not what Ethiopia is doing now. Ethiopia now is building a high dam with a huge capacity.
We shall come to that.
Okay.
Shall come to that. So electricity is not a problem. Mm-hmm. The water goes through the machines the turbines, goes back in the river. The one downstream gets the water. The one upstream gets electricity. So that's no problem. Irrigation. There should be some irrigation. Why? This is because although there is rain, this rain does not always come on time. Sometimes it comes, sometimes it delays. That's why you hear of starvation in Ethiopia. I don't know how you are young, you may not have heard. Ethiopians used to die of starvation. There was a very big famine in I think it was 1985. Many people died because of starvation, because that rain had not come. So you can't say that other Africans should die of starvation.
Of course not. Of course not. We don't agree.
But not we Egyptians.
No. Egyptian people doesn't agree. No.
But all those leaders,
not acceptable.
All those leaders know the big starvation in Ethiopia in 1985. Millions of people died because of starvation. But so therefore you must have some irrigation. The good thing is that irrigation is standby irrigation. Mm-hmm. It is not all the time. It is not all the time. It only comes in case the rain doesn't come. If the rain comes, the water continues. Where will you store the water? Because if the water doesn't go, Uganda will flood. Mm-hmm. Yes. Those people are talking about things which don't exist. If I don't open the gates of the Nile here, Uganda would flood. In 1961, Lake Victoria went up by 3 meters. And all the piers for the, how do you call them in Arabic? We are flooded. If there is too much rain and I don't open the gates at the Nile, a lot of land would be flooded. So nobody will keep the water except when it is needed for that standby irrigation. Now, coming to the issue of Ethiopia.
Yes.
I have not studied that issue myself. I have not studied it. I just hear, because we have not met to talk about it. But you could also think about this, although I have not studied it. You can think about it. If the Ethiopians are building a tall dam, like the one of Aswan,
yes,
because Aswan is a high dam. Now, if the Ethiopians are building a high dam, is it necessarily bad for Egypt? We need to answer that. One thing you should remember is that evaporation in Egypt is much more than, for instance, in Ethiopia. Especially Ethiopia, the evaporation must be lower. I need to study that. I need to ask our scientists. The evaporation, what do you call evaporation in Arabic? Yes. Mm-hmm. So, if evaporation in Egypt is obviously much more because of the desert and the heat, what would necessarily be wrong if the water is stored in Ethiopia and goes down to Egypt when it is needed? What would be the problem? I don't know whether there's any problem, but I have not studied it. But there is also that issue of evaporation.
If you studied this issue yourself, Mr. President, and it's proved that this huge dam Ethiopia is building now is affecting Egypt, really affecting Egypt.
Cannot support what hurts Egypt. We cannot support what hurts Egypt. Also, Egypt should not support what hurts the tropics.
Definitely.
And thirdly, there are many solutions that will be win-win solutions.
Like what?
Like I have said.
The Congo River.
First of all, the amount of the Nile water is also not accurately described. Secondly, talking with other, we may get more water out of this Nile if we manage it well. If we manage it well, we may get more water out of it, because the figures I see here, they are more than what we keep talking about.
Yeah, Your Excellency, about the statements you called in your speech, your budget speech, chauvinistic. I want to go back to these statements and ask you a few questions about it. And you allow me to tell Egyptian people what you said, please. I have seen in the print media statements coming out of Egypt regarding the commendable work of the government of Ethiopia of building dams for electricity in that country. This is what the whole Africa needs to do. And you explain to us why now. Now we understand. That is one reason the economy of Ethiopia has been growing in double digits. Okay. It's therefore advisable that the new government of Egypt and some chauvinistic groups inside Egypt should not repeat the mistakes of the past Egyptian government. First of all, I have to say that these statements Your Excellency called chauvinistic was hurting and humiliating for the Egyptian people, much more than and before being hurting and humiliating for any other African people. And they were immediately condemned and refused totally by the most of the political powers and parties and the most of our writers in the media, in the press, and the public opinion. So I have to say it clear. But my question is, what are the mistakes repeated by the new regime and was committed by the old one?
Not caring about the Nile and Africa, just wanting a cow without feeding the cow. Yes, that must be strange science, that the cow will give you milk, but you don't feed it. You just wait for the cow. In the evening you milk. You don't know what's happening to the cow during the day. It is strange thinking. The Nile, in the past, population was very small. So the Nile was just coming by itself. But even that time, you remember in the time of the Bible, there were the 7 bad years and the 7 good years.
Yeah.
In the Bible.
Yeah. And so, in the Quran?
In the Quran also.
Yes.
So now, at that time, of course, the Egyptians didn't have enough information about where the Nile was coming from and so on and so forth. But now we have. So we can know what's good for the Nile and what's not good for the Nile and work on it. But the Egyptian governments don't do this. They just sit there, only come talk about the amount of water, amount of water is coming from Where? You must know where it is coming from. What's happening there? What's happened to the catchment area? We are here struggling alone with the peasants because of underdevelopment. They are cultivating everywhere, cultivating here, cutting trees, destroying the wetlands, the swamps. Struggling alone, getting loans from the World Bank, doing this, instead of working together. Yes. Those are the mistakes.
But when you talk about another sources of water, means that you believe that Egyptian people have the right to have more share of water than the 55 billion cubic meters. No?
Well, we need to discuss all that. We need to discuss all that. You see, for instance, in that meeting, we would have to discuss the use of this water, the economic, the best use, the best use. Why can't we sit and say which is the best way?
Why? Why we don't sit?
Well, for us, we are ready. The last time, it was the Egyptians who asked us to postpone. The revolutionaries, actually, they're the ones who asked us. So you postpone until our problems. So we are waiting for you people. After the troubles, you haven't come back. We are waiting for you.
For the people or for the regime?
The people in charge of your country.
Mr. President, when you say in the same speech, no African wants to hurt Egypt.
Yes.
However, Egypt cannot continue to hurt Black Africa and the countries of the tropics of Africa. I'll start from the ending. And you allow me to ask why, Your Excellency, you choose Black Africa and not African people, Ethiopian people, the people of the tropics, Africa. Why Black Africa?
Because these blacks are the ones who live in these areas, South Sudan, Uganda, Ethiopia, here. But maybe it was not a good word.
Me as Egyptian, I felt that I belong to another Africa. Or Your Excellency wants to tell me that you are from another Africa. We don't belong to the same Africa. That's what I felt.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
No, I'm not saying that but that's what I felt. And I don't know if it was a message for us. And you have to get it.
In a way, it's a message. In a way, it's a message. Although I don't have to insist on that. It doesn't matter whether you are black or what. So I don't insist on that. So next time I will.
But I insist that we are all Africans, and we belong to the same Africa.
I accept the amendment.
With different colors, different religions, different language, different dialects, but we are all Africans.
What's your name?
Reem.
Reem. I accept Reem's amendment. So I'll put it in my speech as amended by Reem.
Great. Why we don't make it as our popular constitution? No one wants to hurt anyone.
Absolutely. But that's what the Nairo Treaty was saying. That's what the Nairo Treaty, the proposed Nairo Treaty, is the constitution. Yes, we are writing the constitution, the new constitution. Because the constitution which was written in the colonial times, when Africa was not independent, Egypt was independent, because Egypt got independence in 1922. But we were not
really.
Well, you got some flag independence in 1922. 23. But for us, we were not. So we were not in these discussions. The British who were discussing with your people didn't care, didn't even know. And they were doing a lot of bad things to our environment. So we are now here, ourselves. Our Egyptian brothers are there and sisters. So let's talk about our future now. What are you fearing? We are all here, we shall talk.
But the base is the base of our constitution is no one wants to hurt.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't support anybody who wants to fight Egypt. I cannot support him.
What about the Nile House?
Well, it's a good idea. For me here, I support it.
It's about what? It's about a house for all Africans?
No, it's not just a house. It's about the win-win use. You know that concept of win-win?
Sure.
Yeah. Win-win. A win-win formula. How would you say it in Arabic?
من غير مكسب ولا الكل كسبان. الكل كسبان.
Okay. So you go and tell them.
That means that we all have the same rights,
Yes.
the same obligations.
Yes. Absolutely.
The Nile House will be where? Here in Uganda, in Egypt, in Ethiopia?
Well, it must be...
Many Nile houses.
Yes, you may actually have to have many, because it is true that you can have it in Jinja, where you were. You have another one in Ethiopia, another one in Egypt. But the Nile system starts in Burundi.
Yeah.
That's where the Nile system starts. The tributaries of the Nile, which go into Lake Victoria, they are not only here. There are some which are here, but others are in Burundi, others are in Rwanda, others are in Kenya, others are in Tanzania. That's the whole Nile system. So we may actually have to think of many, a number of Nile houses.
If we sit and talk and negotiate, means that we are not stick to the articles of Entebbe agreement?
It was signed by the 7, but not the 2, not Egypt and Sudan.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at it. What was Egypt objecting to? Let's study. What was the problem?
3 articles. The three articles.
What were they saying? I don't remember.
The water security, the mechanism of voting by consent or by majority, and the veto.
The
veto. Egyptian and Sudanese veto.
No, we'll have to discuss that when we are all together, because I haven't studied it.
But now we are having a new president.
This is the same point. If the ministers fail to agree, let us meet, all of us. Because some of those ministers, they are prisoners of not thinking deeply. Just small things. They are afraid to think because they don't want to be blamed.
Yeah.
So, but if I'm there, I have no fear. I will know. So we should not leave this issue with the ministers. That's what I told Mubarak. We ourselves should meet and conclude.
So, Your Excellency will call for them?
We are not the ones chairing, because I would know. There must be somebody else.
Okay.
But that's my proposal.
It's a great one. Finally, I need some messages from Your Excellency, first of all, to the Egyptian Fallahin.
I want to send a message to all the Egyptian people, including the Fallahin. Because if you isolate the Fallahin only, you will not get a good solution. Modern societies live by industry, modernized services, and modern agriculture. That's where Africa needs to go. That's where, including Egypt.
Where Africa needs to go exactly?
Industrialization, modernizing services, modernizing agriculture, ICT, so that we have less people in agriculture and more in industry and services and ICT, like modern countries of the world live. Like, that is the structure now of the society in the United States, in Europe, in Japan, in South Korea, a small country like South Korea, which came up.
So
that's where we all need to go, so that the Fellahin also need to graduate to become modern farmers. Not to remain Fellahin, or peasants here. We need to develop middle class, skilled working class societies. The society needs to change.
Yeah.
Like the society in Egypt, in Africa, in Europe changed.
You believe that we as nations and people of the Nile Basin, we can achieve socio-economic development equally?
Thank you very much. You have now helped me. Social economic transformation. Those words. Social economic transformation.
Using equally
absolutely
the resources of the Nile water.
Absolutely.
I need a statement.
We need the countries of the Nile Basin on an equitable basis, without hurting anybody. Need to carry out socio-economic transformation, to go from, to use the words of Lee Kuan Yew. Do you remember Lee Kuan Yew? Lee Kuan Yew was the Prime Minister of Singapore. And he used the words to go from third world to first world.
Yeah.
The Nile Basin countries need to go from third world to first world countries.
And they can.
And they can. Together, using the resources of the Nile without hurting anybody.
Final word to the Egyptian people.
The Egyptian people should be sure that we here in the tropics will not hurt Egypt. And we shall never, we the revolutionaries of Uganda, shall never support anything that hurts Egypt. But similarly, Egypt should not support anything that hurts the upstream countries.
Your Excellency President Yoweri Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, thank you so much.
Thank you. Shukran.
شكرا جزيلا. شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you.